Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. XRP is about to rip Bitcoin to shreds performance-wise. And lucky for you, you're actually early, certainly early enough. Yes, true, we're getting towards the later stages of this market cycle, but that's where the real magic happens. And I'll just tell you this: if XRP gets back to its all-time high, my God, what that means for XRP in terms of United States dollars is gigantic. I mean, that would be true face melting season. And you'll understand why these analysts that are talking about getting way into double digit price action this market cycle, you're going to see another way of looking at why that's not crazy. It really isn't, folks. But as far as being early, it depends. Well, there are a couple ways you can look at it. How early are you as it pertains to this cycle? But perhaps more importantly, how early are you in adoption of crypto? Because consider this: real estate is a $380 trillion market. Bonds are a $117 trillion market. What about stocks on a global scale? About $115 trillion. Okay, so what about crypto? Well, the answer's on your screen right here on Live Coin Watch. Crypto, as I record, is only at $3.8 trillion. It's what is this, an asset class for ants? Like, come on, you might as well round down to zero, it's so little. But that's why this is so freaking cool. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. It absolutely is, so far as I'm concerned. Because crypto, it's so obvious it's here to stay, and it's obvious that XRP is a clear winner of the crypto space, early winner. But I'm telling you, at some point in the future, you're going to come back to this screen, and that market cap is going to be over $100 trillion, where it should be. It's just that there hasn't been enough adoption. So congratulations to you if it's 2025 and you're listening to this. Yeah, in that sense, you're still early. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Take a look at this post from chart analyst Credible Crypto. I actually shared this in my very last video, but it's worth repeating at least quickly because it's on topic. It's on a major topic that I want to hit on, to illustrate exactly why this idea of XRP going to astronomical prices this market cycle is not remotely crazy. And so here's what Credible Crypto, and he said, he's talking about the short term here, mind you, but he wrote here, literally last night, he said, "We've swept the lows that I was looking for a sweep on the XRP BTC pairing. However, I've been stopped out of my lower time frame scalp on XRP USD as Bitcoin bled below the $114,000 to $116,000 zone. Still think this scenario is likely to play out, but we need Bitcoin to find some footing here on the lower time frames. If Bitcoin can find a floor soon, then I think XRP is set for a nice rally to the upside." And so Credible Crypto, one of the best analysts in the entire crypto space so far as I'm concerned, he thinks there's a highly plausible chance that you're going to see XRP rip against Bitcoin sooner rather than later. Now, mind you, this chart, this is only going back towards what looks like about halfway through June of this year. And so, yes, it would be nice to see that, but what about big picture? How has XRP been faring against Bitcoin if you go back, over a decade? Well, it turns out if you look at this chart and you don't know what you're talking about, you'd say, oh, it doesn't look like XRP's doing that well against Bitcoin, and therefore XRP bad, right? That's the conclusion that people that don't know what the hell they're talking about come to. Because you see this chart, this XRP BTC chart, this is somewhat what the XRP USD chart looked like if you go back a year ago. And as I told you, at the time, on the XRP USD chart, markets find bottoms. So XRP was worth whatever, 50 cents, whatever it was. And I said, guys, I understand that the toxic Bitcoin maximalists, they're making fun of us XRP holders. But if you go back throughout history, you can see that last cycle and the cycle before that and before that, that as XRP found itself historically low price-wise against the Dow, it ultimately did rip. I'm telling you, folks, and this is why you got to understand we are not done. It's the same thing for Bitcoin. So let me simplify this in case it's not making sense. Okay. XRP has already blazed to a new all-time high at multiple points this market cycle. That's already happened. Just last month, we got as high as, or was it technically early August? Whatever. In recent weeks, whatever it was, whether it was technically July or early August, it all blurs together now. XRP hit a new all-time high of $3.65. So you love to see that. That is absolutely fantastic to see. But we haven't yet done that on the XRP BTC pair. And with how much Bitcoin is worth now, oh my God. So you can see back here, like look back when XRP did hit its all-time high in 2017 against Bitcoin. That's how long it's been, by the way. So, think about that. XRP took like close to 7 years to hit a new all-time high against the dollar. We still haven't with Bitcoin yet. So think about this. What was Bitcoin worth in 2017 when this happened? Well, especially if you look towards the end of the year, that Bitcoin got as high as, close to $20,000, and XRP was still running at some point. So, I don't remember exactly what it is down to the penny, but you know how high XRP got for that 2017 bull run, ultimately up to $3.35. So when it hit the all-time high, maybe it was close to that. It would have been around there anyway. So that already was. So think about that. What you're seeing up here, this all-time high on the XRP BTC pair, that's when XRP was basically at an all-time high against the dollar. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Now it's all the way down here against Bitcoin. XRP's way down here against Bitcoin. And yet it started breaking up after the election. That's true. You can see that visually. It's up a little bit. I'm not saying it's not up at all. But again, last time it was at an all-time high, XRP against Bitcoin, XRP was also at an all-time high against the dollar. We're not right now. We are not at an all-time high against Bitcoin while XRP is fairly close to its all-time high. This thing is not done. So imagine what happens if XRP does hit a new all-time high against Bitcoin this cycle, which I don't know about you guys. I don't think that would be crazy. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't make price predictions myself, but I'm trying to help you to understand why this wouldn't be nutso. This would be perfectly reasonable to suppose could happen right now. So you know what that means? Given how much Bitcoin is worth, and this is why this would be a big deal. Bitcoin was worth way less last time XRP hit a new all-time high. Now that Bitcoin is worth a fortune compared to what it was back then at its 2017 all-time high, close to $20,000, and even with the pullback now, mind you, Bitcoin's worth what, $113,000, $114,000. Since it's worth so much more than back then, if XRP matches that against on the BTC pair, if it just gets back to that all-time high, I crunched it before recording this video. You know what the price would be if XRP just hits that all-time high against Bitcoin based on Bitcoin's current price? XRP would be worth $25.53. Now, of course, it's a moving target in terms of what that means for the dollar, because if Bitcoin goes down and XRP matches the all-time high, well, that's a lower USD price for XRP, obviously. But you can see why none of this is crazy, right? Even just to get back to that zone, over $25 XRP. This is not Fantasyland stuff, folks. To think that XRP is never going to have, ever again, a new all-time high against Bitcoin is completely ridiculous and unreasonable. Never? Ever, ever, ever? Not once? Not even for a brief moment? Yeah, come on. I don't buy that. People used to say that against, for the XRP USD pair too, and I thought that was just as nonsensical. And we were proven right. All of us that believed XRP would hit a new all-time high against the dollar, we were correct. So it's wild. And so I want you to have an understanding of how early you are, though. And so there was this is another post from Chart Analyst Credible Crypto. And he said, you're not early per se, but the biggest moves of any cycle happen in the last 10% of it, not the first 90%. So yeah, you're not early, but at the same time, the biggest / most aggressive moves are yet to come. Now, folks, that is just straight fact. Absolutely correct. So consider this. Throughout 2017, Bitcoin ran like crazy. What did it start out at? Was it around like $1,000? If you want the real number, just look it up. It was probably somewhere around. I don't think it was it wasn't 2,000 yet. I think it was close to $1,000 when 2017 started. Rough numbers work for this though. So we know that it went from about 1,000 to about 20,000 inside of 12 months, right? But did you know that it took about 11 months for Bitcoin to go in 2017 from 1,000 to 10,000. So yeah, tenfold increase. I'm pretty sure, and this is roughly correct. I'm just pulling from memory, but it would have been around Thanksgiving, so maybe late November. Bitcoin for the first time in history hit $10,000, which is huge news at the time. Huge news. $10,000 for one Bitcoin? Whoa, that's crazy talk. Okay, but then inside of like 3 to 4 weeks, it went from $10,000 to $20,000. It doubled in price in that time period. So that means that from the beginning of the year, inside of those last 4 weeks, you went from only having a 10x to just add a little bit more time and you had a 20x. That is how quick things can happen at the tail end of a bull market. That's what we're waiting for. So even if you're literally brand new to crypto, I will just tell you this. You've jumped in at a pretty crazy time and you got a lot to learn. But if history rhymes with itself, which it tends to do, then you can get some crazy returns before the market does peak this cycle. But a bubble will inflate and it will pop if history is to rhyme with itself. So you have to be cautious, of course. But there can be a lot more fun to the upside before this thing craters ultimately to the downside. So that's what we have to look forward to. That's what's ahead of us. And now, and I hope that you understood what I had to say about the XRP BTC pair, because my God, if that doesn't get you excited, if that doesn't help to understand, then either I need to learn how to describe that more clearly, or I don't know what your problem is, because it's so obvious that the idea of XRP getting up to these levels is just not crazy. Now, it's rare to have those huge ramps up. I mean, here, I'll pull up the chart up again, and this is shared by Chart Analyst Galaxy. You can see how short-lived it was and how quickly it happened. I mean, granted, these are 1 month candles, but still, like, that should still tell you something. Yeah, it happens quickly, and it happens rarely, but it does happen. And so Galaxy wrote here, XRP is in a 5-year accumulation versus Bitcoin. We've been in this spot before, but not for this long. What happens when this breaks out? Yeah, he knows the answer. The longer something consolidates, the greater the force with which it breaks when it finally does. So, when this bad boy goes, whew. And that's also why the higher Bitcoin goes, the higher your price of XRP will be if it gets back to its all-time high on the XRP BTC pair. But look at how long this thing's consolidating. According to his calculation when he posted this yesterday, 2,070 days. So, longest accumulation in history. But just like I told you, XRP USD would break out. I'm telling you, this thing's going to break out too. And it's cool to see the move that we saw in November. It's cool to see it pick up a little bit of ground recently. And Credible Crypto thinks we're going to pick up even more ground in the short term, or at least we could. But that ain't nothing compared to what's going to happen when this thing's truly firing all cylinders, folks. Talk about face melt season. As far as I'm concerned, just a matter of time until we get fireworks of that style yet again. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.